Hello and welcome back to the reading of Act 2 of Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet. So we left off in our last lesson at the end of scene 2 of Act 2, and this is the most famous scene in the play, right? It's the balcony scene where Romeo is down below in the Capulet orchard. He looks up and sees Juliet in a balcony, and he comes out of hiding and they have a conversation about love. We left off the end of scene 2 where Juliet is going to send a messenger to Romeo tomorrow to find out whether or not Romeo plans to marry her. Romeo, at the end of the scene, said that he was on his way to his ghostly father's cell, which is the friar's cell. So in scene 3, we are going to be at Friar Lawrence's cell, okay? And it's not like a prison cell, it's just where he lives. It's the monastery, right? So Friar Lawrence is a priest, and back in this time period, priests were very involved in their communities. Everybody, every family knew the priest very well. So you're going to see in this scene that Romeo and the friar have a very good relationship, and the friar knows a lot about Romeo because Romeo often seeks the friar's counsel. In the first part of the scene that I'm going to have you read, the friar is going to be reflecting on good and on evil. And he's talking to himself while picking herbs and flowers out in his garden. So I want you to see if you can pay attention and find out some of the things that he says and what kinds of weeds and flowers that he is picking in his garden. So I would like you to please read scene 3 to line 30 now. So in this part where the friar is picking herbs and flowers in his gardens, what he is doing is he's picking some poisonous flowers and some medicinal flowers. On line 8 he says, with baleful meaning poisonous weeds, and precious juiced flowers, precious juiced meaning medicinal. So he's picking here poisonous weeds and medicinal flowers from his garden, and he's using this to talk about how good and bad are intertwined. And on line 223 he says, he picks a flower and he looks at it and he says, within the infant rind of this small flower, poison hath residence and medicine power. So he's saying in this tiny flower, there's both good and bad intertwined. Okay, so this is really a famous speech that the friar makes here because he is really speaking about good and evil and how they are connected and intertwined within one another. And it kind of gives us a glimpse into the play as a whole. We have a lot of good and evil intertwined throughout the play, and a lot of evil comes out of a lot of good and vice versa. So really he's offering some insight into the action of the play here. In this next portion, Romeo is going to enter the scene and he is going to tell the friar about his new love. And I want you to see exactly how he words it and what the friar says to Romeo when he first enters. Their conversation again is really going to show that the friar knows Romeo quite well. So if you would please pause me now and read to line 65. So when Romeo enters and the friar is talking to him, it's quite early in the morning, and the friar says, care keeps, this is on line 36, care, meaning worries, keeps his watch in every old man's eye, and where care lodges, sleep will never lie. But where unbruised youth with unstuffed brain doth couch his limbs, there golden sleep doth reign. He's saying old men don't sleep because they are filled with worry, but he's concerned because therefore thy earliness doth me assure thou art uproused with some distemperature. He's saying, why are you up so early? Are you filled with some sort of worry of some kind? Why are you awake so early? Or, he says on line 43, or if not so, then here I hit it right. Our Romeo hath not been in bed tonight. So he's saying either you're awake early because you have some concern that's eating at you, or, and I think that this is the right one, you haven't been to bed yet. And Romeo says, that is true, right? And he says, the sweeter rest were mine. Now the friar on line 45 is shocked. He goes, oh, God pardon sin, wast thou with Rosaline? He's like, please don't tell me that you were with Rosaline all night and that's why you didn't sleep. Romeo responds to this with, "Rosaline, my ghostly father, no, I have forgot the name, and that name's well." And the friar is really glad to hear that Romeo has forgotten all about Rosaline, and he asks, "Where hast thou been then, if thou were not with Rosaline?" And lines 49 to 55, Romeo is kind of telling the friar where he is, but he's telling it in a way that the friar does not understand, right? He's kind of speaking metaphorically and not being very clear with his words, so the friar is very confused and says on line 56, "Be plain, good son," right? So he's like, just tell me straight what it is that you were doing and what you want. So starting on line 58, Romeo tells exactly what it is he's doing. He says, "Plainly know my heart's dear love is set on the fair daughter of rich Capulet." So he's saying, I love Juliet. As mine on hers, so hers is set on mine. She loves me too. And all combined, save what thou must combine by holy marriage. When and where and how we met and wooed, we made exchange of vow. I'll tell thee as we pass, but I pray that thou consent to marry us today. So he's saying, we want to get married. I'll give you the details later, but I'm asking if you will consent to marry us today, right? He wants to get married to Juliet this very day. Remember, they haven't even met 24 hours ago at this point. Now, in this next section, the friar is going to respond to Romeo's request, so pay attention as to what his response is. I would like you to please pause me now and read to the end of scene 3. So, of course, the friar is very shocked when Romeo says that he wants to marry Juliet today, because the friar knows that Romeo was just madly in love with Rosaline, right? And we saw that as well at the beginning of Act 1. So when the friar says, "Holy Saint Francis, what a change is here," on line 66, "Is Rosaline that thou didst love so dear so soon forsaken?" He's like, you really forgot about Rosaline so quickly? Young men's love then lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. So he's saying young men truly must not love with their heart, but just with their eyes, by what they see, right? Like love at first sight type of thing. So he continues on and he's kind of chastising Romeo. He's reprimanding him for being so fickle and changing with his love. And Romeo says on line 82, "Thou chidest me oft for loving Rosaline." Like, you reprimanded me all the time for loving Rosaline, so I don't understand why you're reprimanding me now for not loving her. And the friar says, no, on line 83, "For doting," so being infatuated with, being obsessed with, "not for loving," pupil mine. And Romeo says, "And bates me bury love." He's like, you made me bury that love. You made me forget about that love. And Friar says, "Not in a grave to lay one in and another half out." He's like, I didn't ask you to forget about her just to fall quickly in love with someone else. So the friar here is being rather reasonable, right? He's being very meticulous in his words. He's acting almost as a father figure here to Romeo. But Friar gives his answer to the request for him to marry Romeo and Juliet that day. He says on line 93, "In one respect, I'll thy assistant be." So he said, I'll help you for one reason. "For this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancor to pure love." He's like, the only reason that I will give my agreement to help you is that I think by joining you two together, it will help end the fighting between your families, right? Your household's rancor or bitterness to pure love. And Romeo goes, "Oh, let us hence, I stand on sudden haste." He's like, hurry, hurry, I'm so excited. And Friar gives a very wise line here, very wise words at the end of the scene. He says, "Wisely and slow, they stumble that run fast." He's saying, go slowly, for those that run fast fall. Okay, and that again is a little bit of foreshadowing that we have here at the end of scene 3. That is all we are going to read for today. I will see you back here for our next lesson on scene 4 of Act 2. Good day to you.